Let's take a breath. Let it go. Take another deep breath in. Let it go. One more breath together. Breathe in. And let go. I'm grateful for that song, Beth. And thank you, Jamie Lula, wherever you are today. Something is calling us deeper than we've ever been before. And I think it's not lost on anyone that there's a dual opportunity to choose where we look tomorrow. Because tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day. To celebrate, to remember the dream, the work that's been done, the work that's in front of us. Right? There is so much to hold in prayer tomorrow. And I do want us all to know that at 4 p.m. our time, there is an interfaith moral mass that's going to be held. It's actually held in Nashville, but it's going to be live streamed with our Centers for Spiritual Living spiritual leader, Reverend Dr. Sonny Contrell Smith, as well as Bishop William Barber Jr., as well as Bishop Yvette Flunder, and a number of others are going to be holding an interfaith mass tomorrow afternoon, which will be 4 p.m. our time. And it's in our e-news, so if you do want to participate in that, you can check our e-news. The link is there, and that is one way to hold the prayer. Tomorrow is also supposed to be one of the coldest days ever in Washington, D.C. Interesting. I just find it interesting because we have a transition in front of us. And I know that that is a thing that many people are feeling. And I want to remind us that one of our core teachings that we hear here over and over and over again is that everything that comes our way is an invitation. Which to me means that everything that comes our way is an invitation. Everything, right? And I know for many people, there is a lot of fear about what is going to be unfolding in this nation and in our community in the unfolding days after tomorrow and for the next 4 years and beyond. And the thing that I want to remind us is that fear hijacks our consciousness. And that there is something calling us a little deeper than we've ever been called before to engage in our spiritual practice, to remain grounded, to remain fully present. Because if we get lost in the what's going to happen tomorrow, next month, next year, down the line, there is so many things we can spend our time becoming afraid of. Or we can focus on what is ours to do, what is mine to do today. What is my practice? What is my prayer? What am I being called to live, to hold, to express, or to become in this moment right now? You know, it's one of the pearls, the gems we get from almost all spiritual traditions is to remain in the present moment. And there's always going to be opportunities for us to fantasize about what could go wrong. And I'm not saying to not think about it, to not go there, to not pay attention. But there's a balancing act, folks, that we all have to begin to engage in. It's how do we rise up and become more powerful, more fierce, more fabulous, more for justice, more for inclusion, more for diversity, more for love, more for compassion than we've ever been before. That's the call, that's the invitation. But also that we maintain our groundedness and our belief in spiritual principle and spiritual truth and the power of spiritual practice and community. Something is calling us deeper than we've ever been before. And so I've been thinking about this week, and that I feel like part of the call for me, my own self, and I'm going to invite you into this yourself, part of the call for me is to really grow ever deeper into my awareness that there is no separation between any one of us. no matter how much I want to point the finger at them out there, whoever that might be, we are all one. Right? And so I've realized this morning that there's a character in our world called Donald Trump who is an invitation for me to cultivate compassion in a new way. That I am going to begin tomorrow, as I have been all along, but again, beginning again tomorrow, I am going to pray every single day for the president of our nation. Amen. For the awakening of a consciousness of compassion. For the awakening of the divine intelligence that I know is accessible to every single living person on this planet, is not devoid in any human being. Yes. And that I can hold that awakening is possible. I can hold that there is compassion in my heart for whatever is going on that causes this or that individual to be the way that they are, to oppress the way that they do, to fight the way that they do, to hate the way that they do. Because if I let the fear and the hatred into my heart, what have I done but create more fear and hatred? And I refuse to hate. And that is a big call, especially when the hatred is pointed at you. Right? There's an invitation. A couple thousand years ago, Jesus gave a Sermon on the Mount. What did he tell us? Pray for those who would hurt you. Love your enemy. That's a big call, folks. That is a deep spiritual practice. To pray for those who would hurt you. To love your enemy. To do good in the face of evil. That is the activity of oneness. That is the activity of being the presence of God in the world. Yeah. Right? It's to learn how to be so grounded in our knowing that we are intimately and intricately connected to everyone, that there is no one that's not included in this oneness. There's no one that's not included in this love. There is no one who is outside of this field of oneness that we believe in. Which means that this invitation that's in front of us, all that's rising up in the world, is asking all of us to go deeper. To not get lost in the illusion of separation. Because I tell you, folks, it's easy to see it. It's easy to believe it. It's easy right now to find the us and the them. The those who are on our side and the those who are on that side, the those who are seeking to oppress and those who are seeking to liberate. There's clearly division. But that's what's happening in the world of effect. But there's a world of cause, and that cause is consciousness. That cause is something greater. And, Ernest Holmes talks about this idea that the laws of the universe, the principles that we're talking about, don't have any volition of their own. That the universe is not directing all of this. It's happening through us and as us. We are directing this process. We are directing evolution. We are directing consciousness. And so how do we choose to be a people who are deciding that this year, our theme is rising higher, growing deeper? Which means we need to grow deeper into these practices, deeper into these principles. And also rise higher into action, rise higher into speaking out, rise higher into stepping out and marching in the world in a way that is demonstrating what fierce love and compassion looks like. Right? We read this affirmation for our nation each and every week. And I know that some of us are like, well, that doesn't feel true. But the point of the affirmation is to speak a truth into the world, to speak a vibration into existence that we believe so fiercely that it shakes away anything unlike it, and that we're going to declare this affirmation, we are going to declare this truth until we see it happening in the world. Yeah. Which means we might be repeating this for a while. But that's part of the practice, is to continue to choose a focus, to choose a direction, to choose the yes that we are choosing, to choose the yes that we want to see unfolding in the world, and then give ourselves to it wholly and completely. So we have to be willing to hold a dream. We have to be willing to hold a vision of who we want to be and the world that we want to live in, and then become the activity of that each and every day. To let the choices we make, the words we speak, the actions we take, to allow the activity of our heart and the activity of our mind to be a healing force in the world. Take a deep breath and let it go. Something's calling us deeper than we've ever been before. Compassion is calling us deeper than we've ever been before. Love is calling us deeper than we've ever been before. And so let's realize that today, each one of us is being called to the more of us. Each one of us is being called to step up, to evolve, to become something new. And everything that's unfolding in our lives, in this community, in the world, all of it is inviting us to be more. And it's not lost on me that this great pattern of deep rearrange and like everyone being invited to jump off a cliff in some way is happening everywhere. Right? I know that there are things going on in individuals' lives in this community that are huge and difficult to deal with. Right? We as a community, we've had to step out of our building. We're in this time of wandering. We're meeting here. We're trying to organize all the things, right? It feels like a catastrophe in some ways, but it can also be an opportunity to rearrange, to reimagine, to redesign, to recreate who we are and what we're doing. And I'm knowing that that same structural difficulty that we're dealing with in our building is very similar to what's happening in our nation, right? That things are crumbling, that old ways that have been ongoing, that have not been serving, are rising up into a place that they cannot last any longer, right? And so we're coming up against a pressure point where the change is rising up. It's shaking from the foundations of existence, and it's calling things to change. And I also just want to bring into our consciousness, I've been holding this prayer for the last few days and celebrating that there is, at least in this moment, a break in the fighting in Gaza, in the genocide, in the war, that there are peace talks emerging, that there is a ceasefire at this time, and for us to all feel that collective breath, to feel that healing is possible. 15 months of a people being destroyed has come to a pause. And so there's room for us to breathe right now and to keep holding that peace continues. To know that whatever fighting is happening in the world can come to a place of peace. And let's know that whatever division and fighting is happening in this country will also find a place of peace at some point. But we have to hold it. We have to pray for it. We have to believe it. And we praise the good when we see it. We have to praise the good when we see it, and we have to speak out against the injustices when we see it. So something's calling us, folks, a little deeper than we've ever been called before. And the circumstances of the world, what's unfolding in the days in front of us, remember, all of it's your invitation. So every day, whatever comes your way, remember that this is the opportunity to go deeper, to look for God, to ask yourself, how can I be love in the face of this hatred? How can I hold compassion? How can I stand for justice, for freedom, for inclusion, for the wholeness of the truth of who we are? It's a big call. And I like to think that we are all entering into, I like to think of this time as a crash course in transformation. You know, we've been doing the spiritual practice for many years, learning how to meditate, learning how to pray, learning the principles. Well, the spiritual test has arrived. We've been practicing for the exam, right? And so when the tough get going, when the going gets tough, the tough get grounded. Yes. We have to maintain grounded, to hold each other in community, to deepen in prayer, and then to live from that place. Because something's calling each one of us. And maybe take a moment and just go within. And Lauren, if you want to join me. I want to invite all of us to take a moment and just go within and see if you can find even one word. I appreciate as Beth sang us through that song. We looped through a number of words. Compassion's calling me. Love is calling me. Wholeness is calling me. Justice is calling me. Truth is calling me. I want to know, what is your word? What's calling you today? Is it compassion? Is it courage? Is it freedom? Is it love? Because whatever it is that's calling you and calling me, each one of us, there's something more seeking to be expressed. And so let's breathe together. And as we breathe, I remind myself and each one of us that we are indeed being breathed by something greater than ourselves. That what I know is that there is one seamless presence, one infinite being, one life force, one power, one presence that I call God. But what I know is that this one is the source of all possibility. This one is the source of all life. This one is the one who is living and breathing in, through, and as everyone and everything, everyone, everywhere, all the time, all the people, all the plants, all the animals, the entirety of the galaxy, all that exists, one life. And so I want us to hold that truth as so powerful that there is no one and no thing outside of this oneness. And that as we hold that truth, as we remember who we are, that we awaken to the truth that each one of us are unique, individualized ways, that the allness of the infinite possibility of the universe is seeking to be expressed into the world, that each one of us can be channels for truth, each one of us can be channels for justice, each one of us can be channels for the activity of healing, each one of us can be channels for compassion, that each one of us is a unique way, that the more is seeking to be revealed into the world. So let us open our hearts and our minds today to the remembering that there is more inside of us that is seeking to be expressed, and it is being called forth by the conditions of the world. But we remember that everything is our invitation. So the invitation today is to step ever deeper into prayer, to step ever deeper into the love, to step ever deeper into the oneness, to be each one of us a place of conviction that the wholeness is real, that the truth will come out, that we are the place where truth gets spoken, where something new can be brought into the world. Let us become activated. Let us get lit up to become fierce and fabulous, to be a place of revealing what spiritual magnificence can truly look like as individuals and as community, as a nation, as a world. So I just give great thanks for this beloved community, for the consciousness that we are cultivating together, for the opportunities that we have to come together as a collective consciousness and hold a higher vision for our world, for our nation, for each other. Because something is calling us deeper than we've ever been before. And so let this day and the next, let every day that unfolds be our call to prayer are called to remember who we are, and a call to declare the truth until it is revealed. And so I just surrender to the more of me, to the more of us, remembering that there is a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are, that is greater than all circumstances, and that we call upon that power to use each one of us, to come through us, to live as us, so that we may be agents of change, agents of creation, agents of possibility, knowing that there is something more seeking to be expressed through each one of us. And as each of us say yes to that, the something more in our collective begins to awaken, and we see the healing happen. So I just surrender to what is, letting go and letting God, and let it be. And so it is.